So guys, in this next news story, 5 men have been jailed for a combined total of over 25 years for their roles in a series of firearms incidents across the west of Sheffield. Appearing at Sheffield Crown Court, the defendants were each sentenced for offences relating to a number of shootings in the city, including one where a dog was critically injured and had to be put down. The first shooting was reported in July 2020 when police were called to Abbeydale Road after numerous calls reporting shots being fired. There, they found a dog had suffered serious gunshot injuries. Its injuries were sadly unsurvivable and the dog had to be put down. In August 2020, officers recovered a viable loaded handgun that had been discarded in a bush on Lumley Street in Sheffield. Later that month, officers received reports that a house on Medhurst Gardens had been shot at, causing damage to the windows. Detective Inspector Tony Slater from the Force's Armed Crime Team said, "The incidents understandably caused a great deal of concern locally when they happened. After all, the use of a firearm is unbelievably dangerous that can result in a significant injury or death. The incident on Abbeydale Road could so easily have resulted in a human being losing their life, though it is no less despicable that an innocent animal was caused such suffering unnecessarily. Thanks to the significant efforts and dedication of the armed crime team and number of individuals, we were able to identify through DNA and tied these individuals to the awful crimes." So in September 2020, as part of a warrant in the Netheredge area, officers recovered a second viable handgun loaded with bullets that had been hidden behind a wall. The firearm was forensically linked to 3 of the defendants. Mohammad Maroof, who's 27, was sentenced to a further 18 months in prison after pleading guilty to possession of ammunition without a certificate. He's already serving a prison sentence after being convicted of possession of a prohibited firearm in earlier proceedings in relation to the handgun that was recovered in August 2020. Awais Ahmed, who's 23, was sentenced to 5 years in prison after entering a guilty plea to possession of a prohibited firearm. Zaheer Ahmed, who's 26, of Sheffield, pleaded guilty to 2 counts of possession of ammunition without a certificate in an early hearing, and he was sentenced to 4 years and 3 months in prison. There was a 4th defendant, Qamar Nain, who's 27. He pleaded guilty to 2 counts of possession of a prohibited firearm and 1 count of possession of ammunition when prohibited. In addition to being forensically linked to the recovered firearms in the shootings in 2020, Nain's DNA was found on spent bullets recovered from a stolen car that was used in a further shooting in Ecclesall Road area of the city in February last year. So in the early hours of Monday, the 7th of February 2022, officers responded to reports that shots had been fired towards vehicles on the Ecclesall Road, injuring one of the occupants. Officers would later locate the stolen car in the Tockley area and recovered a spent bullet casing inside. The casing was ballistically matched to the shooting, and DNA recovered from the case tied to Nain. Nain was sentenced to 6 years in prison. DCI Slater stated this was another incredibly dangerous incident that was witnessed by a number of members of the public, to whom I'm indebted for their calm response to what must have been a terrifying sight, calling police and passing on vital information that allowed us to identify those responsible. There was a 5th man, a 24-year-old Akaash Iqbal, who was also sentenced. Iqbal was linked to the firearm used in the shooting of the dog on Abbeydale Road, but then charged with additional firearms offences and drugs offences after a warrant was executed in the Ringing Low area of the city as part of a wider investigation by the ACT into armed criminality in the city. Officers recovered quantities of cannabis, live shotgun cartridges, and, hidden behind the oven in a kitchen, a single-barrel shotgun. In earlier court proceedings, Iqbal from Sheffield pleaded guilty to possession of a prohibited firearm, possession of ammunition without a certificate, and possession with intent to supply Class B drugs, and he was sentenced to 8.5 years. Detective Slater added, 5 dangerous men and 3 dangerous weapons are now being removed from the streets, and all are now behind bars for their crimes. He said, "Our work does not stop here. Our investigators into those who seek to use firearms to incite fear or cause harm to others will continue, and we will relentlessly pursue anyone within the criminal network who thinks they're above the law when it comes to firearms." He said, "You aren't, and you will be caught." Another story coming from Reading Ways. 3 men are awaiting sentencing for a double kidnapping which lasted 5 days. At around 6:30 on December the 8th, 2021, Gavin Pasha, Kledge Docky, and Garkon Lala kidnapped two men in their 20s in a car park in Lower Early before driving away in several vehicles. After being held captive for 5 days, the victims were safeguarded by police in Northampton in the early hours of December the 13th, 2021. Pasha was charged on December the 14th, 2021. Doki was charged on the 15th of December 2021, and Lala was charged the following day. Erlind Demiraj, who was considered to be the group's ringleader, was charged in his absence back in September last year. He was arrested by Dutch authorities while attempting to cross from Belgium into the Netherlands on November the 4th last year. There was another man, Gettinge Kicker. He was charged by postal requisition in October last year. Following a joint international manhunt operation by the Serious and Organised Crime Unit, the South East Regional Organised Crime Unit, the National Crime Agency, and international law enforcement partners, all four have now been convicted. Investigating Officer Detective Constable Helen Gilbert of the Serious and Organised Crime Unit said this was a frightening incident for the victims who were taken against their will and held captive for 5 days. He said, "I'm pleased that the dangerous individuals involved in this incident have been convicted for their actions by the jury. Thames Valley Police will never tolerate this sort of offending, and this case just shows we will work tirelessly to bring offenders to justice." In this next news story, a Birmingham thief described as a one-man crime wave has been jailed after targeting pubgoers and students in the city. Nikoso Pone of Washwood Heath carried out a month-long crime spree across the city centre. On April the 2nd, the 28-year-old entered Hidelido Hot Pot restaurant in the Bullring, stealing 3 iPads. He also sneaked into the rear staff rooms where CCTV caught him going through the belongings of staff who were busy working. Just days later, Pone went to the Briar Rose pub on Bennett's Hill and distracted a woman to steal her phone. On April the 17th, the callous thief went into Bill's restaurant in the Bullring and sat next to a victim whose phone was in sight next to them. Using a restaurant menu, Pone covered the phone and was able to steal it and leave the restaurant before the victim realised what had happened. On April the 24th, he went to Birmingham City University and once in a student-only area went room to room looking for things to steal before he found a laptop which was briefly unattended. He took the laptop under his arm and left the building. West Midlands Police said the victim was left distraught as the laptop contained all her university work and she was forced to rewrite everything that she had studied for to save a degree. Pone also targeted 2 shops in Birmingham's Chinese Quarter, distracting staff and stealing their phones by reaching over the counter. He was caught after officers recognised him after receiving a call to say a suspicious man was on the university campus. Pone pleaded guilty to 4 counts of burglary and 2 counts of theft from the person and was sentenced at Birmingham Crown Court, and he was jailed for 18 months. PC Matt Evans from Birmingham Police said officers all over the West Midlands are working together to target and arrest prolific thieves like this guy who travel all over the country to commit crime. This was a great result, with security guards, the public and police all working together as a team to identify a career thief and bring him to justice. Pone was a one-man crime wave, and it's good to know he's now being punished for his callous behaviour. So guys, there's a couple of stories coming out of the streets of the UK. Now if you already haven't done so, please hit the subscribe button and also please put a like on this video as it will help with the algorithms and promote this video further. It's your boy GT. Keep it locked, keep it real.